Good morning. Today I'm reading from the New Dictionary of Thoughts, continuing into quotes, starting with associates. Okay? See companionship. If you wish to be held in esteem, you must associate only with those who are esteemable. Bruyere. That's spelled Bruyere. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Menander. Yeah. We gain nothing by being with such as ourselves. We encourage each other in mediocrity. I am always longing to be with men more excellent than myself. Lamb. You may depend upon it that he is a good man whose intimate friends are all good, and whose enemies are decidedly bad. Lavater. When one associates with vice, it is but one step from companionship to slavery. Be very circumspect in the choice of thy company. In the society of thine equals thou shalt enjoy more pleasure. In the society of thy superiors thou shalt find more profit. To be the best in the company is the way to grow worse. The best means to grow better is to be the worst there. Quarrels. No company is far preferable to bad, because we are more apt to catch the vices of others than their virtues, as disease is more contagious than health. Colton. Choose the company of your superiors whenever you can have it. That is the right and true pride. Chesterfield. No man can be provident of his time who is not prudent in the choice of his company. Jeremy Taylor. A man should live with his superiors as he does with his fire, not too near, lest he burn, nor too far off, lest he freeze. Diogenes. Company, villainous company, hath been the ruin of me. Shakespeare. It is best to be with those in time that we hope to be with in eternity. Fuller. It is certain that either wise bearing or ignorant carriage is caught as men take diseases one of another. Therefore, let men take heed of their company. Shakespeare. Frequent intercourse and intimate connection between two persons make them so alike that not only their dispositions are molded like each other, but their very faces and tones of voice contract a similarity. Lavater. When we live habitually with the wicked, we become necessarily their victims or their disciples. On the contrary, when we associate with the virtuous, we form ourselves in imitation of their virtues, or at least lose every day something of our faults. Agapet. In all societies, it is advisable to associate, if possible, with the highest. Not that they are always the best, but because if disgusted there, we can always descend. But if we begin with the lowest, to ascend is impossible. Fulton. It is only when men associate with the wicked, with the desire and purpose of doing them good, that they can rely upon the protection of God to preserve them from contamination. C. Hodge. It is meet that noble minds keep ever with their likes, for who is so firm that cannot be seduced? Shakespeare. People will in great degree, and not without reason, form their opinion of you by that they have of your friends, as says the Spanish proverb. Tell me with whom you live, and I will tell you who you are. Those unacquainted with the world take pleasure in intimacy with great men. Those who are wiser fear the consequences. Horace. Association. I have only to take up this or that, to flood my soul with memories. Madame de Lucy. There is no man who has not some interesting associations with particular scenes or airs or books, and who does not feel their beauty or sublimity enhanced to him by such connections. Alison. That man is little to be envied whose patriotism would not gain force on the plain of Marathon, or whose piety would not grow warmer amid the ruins of Iona. Johnson. He whose heart is not excited on the spot with a martyr has sanctified by his sufferings, or at the grave of one who has greatly benefited mankind, must be more inferior to the multitude in his moral than he possibly can be above them in his intellectual nature. Southey. Astronomy. Astronomy is one of the sublimest fields of human investigation. The mind that grasps its facts and principles receives something of the enlargement and grandeur belonging to the science itself. It is a quickener of devotion. H. Mann. No one can contemplate the great facts of astronomy without feeling his own littleness and the wonderful sweep of the power and providence of God. Tryon Edwards. An undevout astronomer is mad. Young. The contemplation of celestial things will make a man both speak and think more sublimely and magnificently when he comes down to human affairs. Cicero. Atheism. The three great apostles of practical atheism that make converts without persecuting and retain them without preaching are health, wealth, and power. Colton. There are no atheists in the foxholes of Bataan. Douglas MacArthur. There are pseudo-atheists who believe that they do not believe in God, and who in reality unconsciously believe in him, because the God whose existence they deny is not God but something else. There are practical atheists who believe that they believe in God, and who perhaps believe in him in their brains, but who in reality deny his existence by each one of their deeds. There are absolute atheists. Absolute atheism is in no way a mere absence of belief in God. It is rather a refusal of God, a fight against God, a challenge to God. Jacques Maritain. An atheist is a man who has no invisible means of support. Fulton J. Sheen. Atheism is rather in the life than in the heart of man. Bacon. To be an atheist requires an infinitely greater measure of faith than to receive all the great truths with which atheism would deny. Atheism, not Atheism. Atheism, if it exists, is the result of ignorance and pride, of strong sense and feeble reasons, of good eating and ill living. It is the plague of society, the corrupter of morals, and the underminer of property. Jeremy Collier. If a man of sober habits, moderate, chaste, and just in all his dealings should assert there is no God, he would at least speak without interested motives. But such a man is not to be found. Bryer. No one is so thoroughly surreptitious as the godless man. Life and death to him are haunted grounds, filled with goblin forms of vague and shadowy dread. Harriet Beecher Stowe. Atheism is the death of hope, the suicide of the soul. The footprint of the savage in the sand is sufficient to prove the presence of man to the atheist who will not recognize God, though his hand is impressed on the entire universe. Hugh Miller. Few men are so obstinate in their atheism that a pressing danger will not compel them to the acknowledgment of a divine power. Plato. A little philosophy inclineth men's minds to atheism, but depth in philosophy bringeth men's minds to religion. For while the mind of man looketh upon second causes scattered, it may sometimes rest in them, and go no further. But when it beholdeth the chain of them, confederate and linked together, it must needs fly to providence and deity. Bacon. Virtue in distress and vice in triumph make atheists of mankind. Dryden. Atheism is the folly of the metaphysician, not the folly of human nature. George Bancroft. In agony or danger, no nature is atheist. The mind that knows not what to fly to, flies to God. H. Moore. The atheist is one who fain would pull God from his throne, and in the place of heaven's eternal king, set up the phantom chance. Glynn. The atheist is one who fain would pull God from his throne, and in the place of heaven's eternal king, set up the phantom chance. Glynn. An irreligious man, a speculative or a practical atheist, is as a sovereign who voluntarily takes off his crown and declares himself unworthy to reign. Blackie. Atheism is never the error of society, in any stage or circumstance whatever. In the belief of a deity, savage and sage have alike agreed. The great error has been not the denial of one God, but the belief of many. But polytheism has been a popular and poetical rather than a philosophical error. Henry Fergus. Atheism is a disease of the soul, before it becomes an error of the understanding. Plato. God never brought miracles to convince atheism, because his ordinary works convince it. Bacon. There are innumerable souls that would resent the charge of the fool's atheism, yet daily deny God in very deed. The atheist is one of the most daring beings in creation, a contemner of God who explodes his laws by denying his existence. John Foster. What can be more foolish than to think that all this rare fabric of heaven and earth could come by chance, when all the skill of art is not able to make an oyster, to see rare effects and no cause, a motion without a mover, a circle without a center, a time without an eternity, a second without a first. These are things so against philosophy and natural reason that he must be a beast in understanding who can believe in them. The thing formed says that nothing formed it, and that which is made is, while that which made it is not. This folly is infinite. Jeremy Taylor. A traveler amid the scenery of the Alps, surrounded by the sublimest demonstrations of God's power, had the hardihood to write against his name in an album kept for visitors, an atheist. Another who followed, shocked and indignant at the inscription, wrote beneath it, if an atheist, a fool; if not, a liar. G. B. Cheever. Atheists put on a false courage in the midst of their darkness and misapprehensions, like children who, when they fear to go in the dark, will sing or whistle to keep up their courage. Pope. Whoever considers the study of anatomy can never be an atheist. Lord Herbert.